Hello friends, it's another very interesting time. We are meeting again, and for this time notes zetu za classification tayari zimeshaisha na tuende tu discuss vitu vichache. Kama unakumbuka, kuna kipindi ambacho ni tuma cha kwanza to discuss introduction to classification. So in this session mimi discuss tena mambo ya introduction, kwa sababu notes hazijabadilika. Hii cover tu imebadilika, lakini everything inside remains the same. History of our classification, we explained about Aristotle, the founder of classification. Then toka explain Kuskal's linears na classify vipi organisms. Then we finalized with Robert Hugging Whittaker, who classified organisms into two major groups. Classify organism kwenda kwenye two major groups, 5 major groups known as kingdoms, which we normally use hata sasa hivi. Na leo mimi ningetaka tuanze kudiscuss kuhusu meaning of classification, and tutaishia kwenye somewhere else, lakini to discuss the meaning of classification. Introduction to topics like classification, they are looking much similar to what we discussed in O level, and actually ni kwamba vitu vingine ni vile vile vinajirudia kama tulivyosoma O level, lakini tukija ku some of the things we dig deeper na tunasoma kwa undani zaidi. So we want to know more detail about these things and how we can use these things. Now, first is the meaning of classification. Again, the meaning of classification, as how we discussed it from O level, it remains the same. Classification is the systematic way or process of grouping living organisms. Classification, that means we group living organisms into groups. And in the process of classification, tuna arrange kutoka kwenye group kubwa inaitwa kingdom hadi kwenye group ndogo inaitwa species. So the systematic way or process of grouping living organisms according to their similarities and differences, or is the sorting of living organism according to their similarities and differences. Kupanga living organism, tunapanga kulingana na features ambazo wanafanana na features ambazo wanatofautiana. Ndio maana sema tunapanga according to the similarities and differences. Classification involves the use of different sources of taxonomic data to place an individual group or different groups based on their similarities or differences. Kwa hiyo katika kuweka magroup mbalimbali from the kingdom to the species, we use different sources of taxonomic data involving the fossils, yani mifupa mbalimbali, na taxonomic data nyinginezo nyingi tunazitumia katika kuweza ku make sure kwamba tunapata data mbalimbali regarding the history and the nature of these living organisms. It creates a logical order and a sense at great variety of organisms by grouping them in the basis of relationship between them. Kwa hiyo ina create logical order na namna ambayo tunaweza kupata living organism wengi, and we can group them into different groups. Now the branch of biology which deal with classification is known as taxonomy. Taxonomy by definition is the study of principles, procedures and rules involved in classifying living organisms. By definition, taxonomy is the study of the principles, procedure and rules involved in classifying living organisms. That's what we call as taxonomy. And the biologist who deal with classification is known as taxonomist. So taxonomist is the person, but taxonomy is the branch of biology. Now the science of taxonomy has two branches, namely nomenclature and systematics. Nomenclature involves the process of naming organism, whereas systematics involves placing organism into different groups based on their similarity and differences. We cannot name living organism without placing it in its respective groups, because we learn about the binomial nomenclature, which is the naming of living organism, whereby every living organism, it has two names, the generic and the specific name. So in order to name an organism is simply taking the genus and the species of an organism. We must first place an organism from its kingdom to its species, and then taking the name of the genus and the name of species tutapata scientific name of an organism. So systematic ina involve kumweka living organism katika group, na nomenclature ina involve kumpa jina. In other words, systematics is the fixing or placing organism into groups or taxa according to their resemblance, diversity, and evolution relationship. There are different factors which we use them in systematics, and there are different what you call at the basis of classification. There are different factors we use them at the basis of classification in classifying organisms into different groups. Thus, what we are saying in that systematics itatumia different factors kuweza kwa classify our living organism kwenda katika different groups. In systematics, organisms are placed in various hierarchical levels. Tunaweka katika different hierarchical levels or ranks on the basis of easier observable shared or common and permanent structural features such as shape and the number of appendages. The hierarchical level constitute what is known as taxonomic hierarchy, which is defined as the systematic arrangement of taxa from largest taxon, which is kingdom, to the smallest taxon, which is called a species. So tunavyokwenda soma systematics, pia tuna involve kusoma kitu kinaitwa hierarchical level, unaona, au taxonomic hierarchy. Taxonomic hierarchy ni systematic arrangement of living organisms from the largest taxa, which is kingdom, to the smallest taxa, which is species. So when we are arranging organisms kutoka katika kingdom, then tunashuka kwenda kwenye species. Our organism tuna consider different factors. We consider different factors in these living organisms in order to make sure that we arrange them in their respective groups. Now let's see the aims or the importance or the advantages of classification. We are using different terminologies because sometimes you can be asked, why do we classify organism? Why do we classify organism? The aim. What is the advantage of classifying organism? Or how is this important? So when you are asked about why do we classify organism, the aim of classifying, the importance or the advantages, we use the same point to explain these different three questions. So first, it provides easier communication among biologists from various parts of the world, hence avoid confusion. Without classification, that means living organism would have different names. You know, even these living organism, you can find maybe a dog. In Nyakyusa, a dog has its own name. In Pangwa, in Bena, in Hehe, a dog has different names. So in different language, you will find that a dog will have different names. So a best way to have a single name all over the world is having the system of classification, which will give scientific name to an organism, and thus all over the world scientists will communicate easier by saying Felis domestica. I think the scientific name of a dog is Felis domestica. I don't remember well, but by pronouncing the scientific name, it brings the picture of one living organism all over the world. For example, a Homo sapiens or Pisum sativum, when you are talking of the garden peas, Pisum sativum. Kwa hiyo all over the world ukizungumza Pisum sativum, unaeleweka kwamba you are talking of the pea plants. Number two, it provides an organized system into which a new organism can be fitted in future. Inatengeneza organized system ambayo new organism can be fitted in future. Number three, help in identifying and naming arising species. Kwa hiyo classification system zinasaidia katika kuona the new arising species tunaweza kumweka kwenye group gani. Number four, it reveals evolutionary trend or taxonomic relationship among organisms. Inajaribu kuonyesha uhusiano uliopo kati ya organism, kwamba kati ya organism moja na mwingine kuna relationship gani. Number 5, it enables us to identify and name many organisms. Kwa hiyo inatusaidia katika ku identify na ku name organism. Number 6, it makes the study of organisms to be more easier and systematically. Unaona, inasaidia study of organism iwe easier and systematically. Number 7, the characteristics of all members of a group studied by studying the characteristics of few member. Kwa characteristics of all members of a group inaweza ikawa studied kwa urahisi kwa kusoma characteristics of few member. Yani ina easy, unajua tukisoma phylum Chordata tunajua okay, all chordates wanakuwa wana feature fulani. Ni tofauti na kama tungetaka kwenda kusoma chordate mmoja mmoja, unaona. However, we are studying species, for example, instead of knowing human being from Australia, from Nairobi, from Tanzania anaonekanaje, by knowing that all of them they are of the same species, unakuwa unajua kwamba they can interbreed freely, and all the characteristics found in human being present in Tanzania utakuwa unajua kwamba pia zinakuwa zinapatikana katika human being ambaye yupo maeneo mengine ya dunia. Another thing, it makes the study of organism more easily and systematic. The characteristics nishafika namba 7. Namba 8, it help understanding relationship among organism according to their group, kwamba organism huyu na organism huyu wana ukaribu kiasi gani, wana uwezo gani wa kuingiliana, how with the ecology, unaona, kwa sababu classification ina combine the knowledge of ecology, the dependence between living organism, na ina combine the knowledge of evolution at the same time. Number 9, it help understand the distinctive features of living organism in their groups. It help understand what are the unique features of different organism in their group. And number 10, it helps to understand the differences among organisms and according to their group. Tukijua different organism, we can also understand the differences between them. Number 11, it simplifies the study of biology, especially based on living organisms. Inajaribu kuturahisishia study of biology, and more especially study of biology ambayo based kwenye living organisms. But we have a lot of challenges in the study of, in taxonomy. We have a lot of challenges. There are a lot of challenges in classifying living organisms, and we call these are the problems with classification. What are the problems with classification when we are classifying living organisms? What are the problems? First, classification is time consuming and tiresome work. It is time consuming. Natenda kuona baadaye the systems of classification. We have natural and artificial. The natural one is the one which is more tiresome and it is time consuming work. Number 2, it is very expensive. Here we are talking about the natural classification. Very expensive. Unakuta you must travel in various areas of the world to correct different species and knowing how are they relating to each other and how are they different. Number 3, it requires skilled person. You must have a lot of experience regarding the characteristics of living organism. Number 4, some organisms may show characteristics which lie between two distinct groups. For example, Euglena with both animal and plant characteristics. It makes it difficult to classify Euglena in whether kingdom Animalia or kingdom Plantae. There in the kingdom Protectista, actually it's grouped there, but it is not actually animal or it's not plant, so it is in between. Number 5, evolutionary information of an organism may be missing. So sometimes unakuta kuna mifupa inatafutwa, kuna relationship kati ya organisms zinatafutwa na tunashindwa kuzipata. So missing of the evolutionary information, that means itatupa ugumu sana katika kuweza kumclassify organism katika grupu aliyotakiwa awepo. So in this session nitaishia hapa, na kipindi kijacho tutaangalia the common terminologies used in classification. Tukisema terminology maana yake nini, terminology maana yake tutaona kwenye kipindi kijacho. Tuishie hapa, and I hope you have enjoyed the session. Don't forget to subscribe our channel and to share this session to more other students so that to get these sessions for free. Thank you, and I wish you a nice